were you apprehensive at all about working with your partner in this way, starting a business with your partner?
We kind of didn't even really think about it, like maybe naively. We think about things in a very similar way, but we have really different skill sets. Like I'm very impulsive and like I have an idea and I want to run with it. He's like trained accountant, tells me off when I buy more trainers, kind of like very logical person. So we actually complemented each other very well and we didn't think about it. It just snowballed. I think there's a lot of stigma attached to working or co-founding a company with your partner. And I often think it's very interesting as to why that is. I think often people think, oh, well, I wouldn't want to start a relationship with my girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, because that wouldn't work for us. And so they project their relationship onto you. And I think often people assume, I think wrongly, that like working with someone that you don't know is better because there's less risk and relationship and emotion. But actually, if you're investing in a couple, they've got a history of dealing with conflict and compromise and getting over it. So if anything, it's way easier to work with your partner, as long as you get on in that respect, than it is to try to navigate the very complex world of starting a business when there's the potential for so much disagreement of who's in charge of what and the decisions you make. It's been way easier being comfortable with the person you're doing that with.
And so what happened then? So you decided to start this business. What happened in the months following that?
We decided to launch it, bought a whiteboard, went to the pub and drew up some vague form of business plan. Like we weren't people that were like, we want to start a startup. Like there's two types of founders. There's ones that really want to start a startup and they're waiting for the idea. And there's people I think that have the idea and then they're like, oh, maybe I'll run with this. We were definitely in the latter bucket. We then needed a third co-founder, technical co-founder who could actually build the thing. So we found Tim on AngelList, who's been brilliant. He's still our third co-founder. And started building it. We were all still working. We hadn't given up our jobs. We were just trying to see if this was going to take off, particularly on the D2C side. And then it did. It started to snowball. In like 6 weeks from launch, we had about 4,000 users that were kind of signed up and waiting to go. And it just got to the point where we were like, no, this does have traction. We were all still working part-time when we started raising our pre-seed round. And then it kind of snowballed from when we raised some money and were able to do it properly.
How did you go about attracting that first 4,000 people?
We realised that there probably wasn't any point in like building this all singing or dancing platform for it to fall flat. So we bid on a couple of terms about flexible working, posted about it on LinkedIn and put up a landing page and a waiting list and said, you know, this is what it's going to be. Are you interested? Nice. And that was how we got the first 1,000. Then obviously when you launch with activity and with people sharing about it, it is much better and easier to get momentum.
And so talk to me about the actual timing of it then. So you started this just before COVID.
Yeah.
And then as COVID was starting to kind of set in across the world, people were having to work more flexibly.
Yeah.
And then since then, you know, if I look at LinkedIn, if I speak to different founders that we work with or that, you know, I know, flexibility seems to be a massive trend that people genuinely care about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would love to hear more about the wider circumstances around launching this.
Yeah, we were a bit worried in the beginning when it was like everyone's working from home. And it's like, well, the USP is kind of gone. And we were waiting to see like how that would affect people's opinions of it, because it could go one of two ways. It was either going to be like, wow, this is great, I love having freedom and choice, or it could go, this is too much and I desperately want to go back to an office. We thought it would land somewhere in the middle, and it has. But it was waiting for that to happen. Like we were gaining momentum, but companies are a bit like, well, we're all working from home at the moment, so we don't know. Whereas in the last 6 months, it's been like, we want to prove that we're continuing to be flexible, because 78% of people in the like office global population say that flexibility is a non-negotiable. Like they won't work somewhere without it. That is a huge proportion of the population, and companies need to be able to appeal to that. So then it became a much easier sell, because it's like, you're flexible, you want to shout about it, use it to your advantage. And for people, the Great Resignation, like people will have read about it everywhere. People want to leave jobs that they're not happy in, and that's built up over the last 2 years because they were feeling very insecure about the economic circumstances, and they weren't leaving because it was in the middle of a pandemic. Now people are looking to leave to go to places that are better than where they currently are.
a lot of the time I see companies talking about flexibility, and if you drill down into it, what they mean is that you can work from home once a week.
Yeah.
Is that true flexibility in your opinion?
They would fail.
They would fail. They would fail all the tests.
Yeah.
So how do you define flexibility?
So flexibility is very much a spectrum, and it's why we have the index, and the company has to score 60% in order to be considered flexible. Like, to put that into a working environment, that would be at least 2 days a week from home, some flexibility on hours. So like, come in half an hour earlier, later, not like you need to be at your desk by 9 a.m. And some benefits like maybe additional annual leave or enhanced parental leave or a dog-friendly office, some benefits that add flexibility. That would be 60, so like nothing mental. But then there's the other end of the spectrum where some companies are, where it's just total freedom. They have an office, but you don't have to go into it at any point. You can work from anywhere in the world at any time, and it's all asynchronous. And they've got every benefit under the sun. We'll pay for your Airbnb if you want to work from anywhere. We'll pay for, travel to do so, or unlimited annual leave, unlimited sick leave. There are some amazing benefits out there, and that is the 100% kind of end of the spectrum.
Got it. It's a great definition. And so a lot of people, when it comes to kind of flexibility, if I'm thinking about the way our company is set up and the way a lot of other companies operate, it would be a real challenge to suddenly become a flexible business. There needs to be a certain infrastructure in place, certain processes, types of communications. So, in your view, what are the key things that have to be done for a company to then be able to bring the flexibility to life?
The first thing they have to do is actually listen to their employees and what they want. And you'd be amazed at like how often that doesn't happen.
Right.
Company would be like, what should we do? And I say, have you asked your employees? No. So that's the first thing. And trying not to appeal to 100% of people, because that's literally impossible. But taking 70 to 80%, the majority, and saying this is what they want. Often that is like going into the office once a week or once a month as they wish to. But the kind of actual frameworks around it aren't necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is culture. And I think culture is often like a very fluffy term, and like people don't know how to define that. But the most important thing is senior leadership role modeling, that flexibility. As I just talked about before, like if all senior leadership are in the office every day, people will feel that that expectation. Or if they don't take their holiday, they'll feel uncomfortable taking their holiday too. If they're not away from their desks to pick their kids up from school, people won't feel comfortable to do that. The most important thing that a company can do is make sure that senior leadership are role modeling it, because people will emulate those behaviours because it makes them feel comfortable and it's culturally accepted.
And when it comes to young people in the office, I think one of the really good arguments for the office is that young people can learn physically from the people around them. And if they have a problem, they can literally tap somebody on the shoulder. Do you agree with that?
I'm definitely not anti-office. I think there are massive benefits for it. What I am anti is forcing somebody to go in all the time, and like not every day is going to be a day where people are available to chat and teach people. And I think that over time what we're going to see is that in-person work and remote work become complementary features, and the work that people do in an office is different to the work that people do at home.
Right.
If you've got external Zoom calls with clients and you've just got to reply to loads of emails, why would you go into the office and do that? But if you've got collaborative team days, you've got a new joiner starting, you've got big strategy sessions or big in-person meetings, that should definitely be done in the office, and that's a good thing. And I think that it's just going to become a bit more of like people need to plan their weeks better and schedule that better. Companies need to be aware that those two types of work are complementary, but they shouldn't really have a massive amount of overlap.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. There are times, so there are 16 of us now in the business, and we've got an office which can house everyone, and it's great. And I love it when people are in, but at the same time, I get what it's like to go all the way into the office just to sit on back-to-back Zooms and just think, why am I here? It doesn't make sense. Or perhaps I'm in the office and people are having a good time, people are talking, so the volume is quite loud. And so then I need to go elsewhere to actually get my head down and concentrate.
Exactly. And then you get distracted and it doesn't work as well. So it's about kind of piecing those things together. But I do think it's important that you have an office that everyone can fit in. Because otherwise people feel like they they're discouraged from going in as well. Whereas you have a desk, you have a place to go. People are much more likely to come in for that in-person interaction.
Yeah, exactly. I saw on your LinkedIn a post about dogs. You said that at Flexa Careers, we've seen the number of people searching for organisations with dog-friendly offices on the platform increase by 350% in March 2020 compared to March 2021.
Yeah.
Sorry, March 2022 compared to March 2021.
Yes. That's mad, isn't it?
It's crazy. People love dogs and love bringing
dogs.
What is this? Is this people bought, puppies in lockdown and now they need to bring them in, or is this people just really embracing flexibility and not having to get a dog sitter?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there were 3 million dogs bought during lockdown. Like, that's a lot of dogs.
Wow.
In the UK. And obviously people would ideally like to bring them into the office because it's cheaper and you get to spend time with your dog. It's nicer for the dog as well, as long as they're okay with the office. And so we've just seen this demand massively increase, but it's also been mirrored by the number of organisations that are offering dog-friendly offices has, I think, nearly doubled. And it's those two sides of it that are obviously normalising it, which means that people aren't afraid to ask if they can bring their dog in anymore, whereas before it would have been seen as sort of like a bit of an outrageous question.
Yeah.